component of wider national development strategies, end quote. In Dominica, there are 3 categories of persons under the brackets of inequality. Number 1, those who have homes. Number 2, those who do not have homes. And number 3, those without access to resources needed to get these homes. To build a home, Mr. Speaker, one needs access to land, capital, planning, or architectural design for my honorable architecture over there, and estimates. Not everyone has these privileges, and this is where we can clearly see the gap inequality generates. Building homes is resource producing, meaning that for every home built, a financial resource is allocated onto the individual receiving the home. A home is an investment good, and in every way can be used to generate revenue business-wise onto the persons receiving the homes. Please note here, Mr. Speaker, that adequate, affordable housing in a secure environment is a major indicator of increasing living standards in a society. A critical element is the existence of support instruments. Many of these must be considered like housing and security for the people of Dominica. The absence of home ownership is often associated with poverty and social exclusion. That is what we are trying to eliminate. Persons without access to land and homes will struggle to come up with the finances to own their own land and homes. Can you recall, Mr. Speaker, during Hurricane Maria, that those with concrete structures took a massive hit, but they were able to recoup quickly, unlike those who lost every single thing? From the structure of their homes to everything inside it, Mr. Speaker, everything was lost. Isn't that inequality? With high expectations of the future, even the World Bank saw the importance of residential infrastructure in Europe in the 1980s, after putting it on a back burner for all of the 70s, Mr. Speaker. A World document dubbed the Structure and Performance of the Housing Sector of the Centrally Planned Economies for European Nations in 1989 was issued using data to introduce new policies that make rent more reasonable and loans more available for people across Europe at the time. Many socialists strongly believe and have concluded that high-growth economies are intractably tied to urbanization. And for those wanting to research, you could just research Guyane HM and Guyane LD 2018 International Journal of Social Economics, Volume 45, number 2, pages 316 to 339. Prioritizing the housing revolution right now is the best strategic course of action against hurricanes, Mr. Speaker. Every year, the government is reducing inequality by providing resilient homes in every community across Dominica. We are prioritizing sustainable development through the housing development. We will not put it on the back burner for 3 years, expecting that our people will thrive despite inequality. Since the passage of Hurricane Maria in 2017, Mr. Speaker, the government, through the Public Service Investment Program's access to loans, grants to CBI, has made an aggressive effort toward tackling inequality. That is an average of $60 to $75 million per annum, Mr. Speaker. As of today, it is recorded that so far 1,300 homes have been built across Dominica. That is 1,300 families now in resilient homes that will never experience a catastrophic hurricane. They don't have to see their homes being blown away again. We are 1,300 homes into eliminating inequality in our great nation. What is social efficiency? Which is what social efficiency is all about. This government knows that the developing world is shaped by socio-political needs that ensures the people feel safe, secure, settled, and appreciated by their government. People from Hillsborough Gardens in St. Joseph, the Kalinago Territory, Corcoran, Melville Hall, Wesley, Georgetown, Cottonelle in Portsmouth, La Plaine, Delasees, Grand Fort Roseau, Castle Bruce, and Saint-Sauveur can attest to that, Mr. Speaker. In the building of these homes, there was also the creation of jobs. Many young persons have been working with locally and regionally recognized construction companies. That is the answer to the question of the opposition leader, Honorable Akia Joseph, when she asked in her speech about the jobs. So I'm answering. We have seen young men and women become industrious members of society by dedicating their time to learning new skills and becoming plumbers, electricians, laborers, HVAC specialists, heavy equipment operators, truck drivers, and the list go on. We can see our engineering students, both male and female, getting one-on-one training with seasoned engineers. Because of what? The housing revolution. Because of this special endeavor toward eliminating inequality among the people of Dominica, many people received access to jobs which increased their standard of living. The new jobs allowed people to have a disposable income which increased their purchasing and investing power toward what? Their children's education, toward food and hygiene, toward small business creation and management, and much more. How, Mr. Speaker, can these capital projects be seen as unnecessary priorities that dampens the economy when it gives the skilled and unskilled workers the chance to make money for their families? The people of Dominica are being prioritized in this effort, and the government of Dominica will continue to do so. Take notice of how many people have been and will continue to benefit from the building of climate-resilient homes. Laborers, restaurants, bars, bed and breakfasts, hotels, local shops, and real estate. All around Dominica, we have seen direct and indirect beneficiaries, and one cannot deny that in one way or another, they have seen a family thrive. For 2 years now, $25 million was spent on the acquisition of lands for the construction of the soon-coming international airport, with an additional $22 million to be spent in the next coming months. Also, $5 million was spent on the acquisition of lands for the geothermal project. This needs to be a fulfilled promise to the people of Dominica, and it will come. Domlec will purchase electricity sourced geothermally from the government and sell it at the buying price to reduce the cost of electricity for Dominicans. This in itself is sustainable, as we no longer have to rely on the importation of diesel to cover 70% of our electricity supply. Other factors to note is that opportunities are being created for the youth, because we understand that cultural violence is a disease that must be prevented. The goal is to see educated young men and women become exceptional members of this great nation, despite their individual backgrounds. The people of Dominica are self-reliant, and they are self-sustainable, and they are able to make things work when they pull their weight. The government of Dominica is helping them to pave the way towards certain financial success for themselves and their generations to come. Mr. Speaker, what is the justification for continued investment in the housing and international airport and geothermal energy for the next 3 years? The reason why this government has such an aggressive stance in this current season, the reason behind the 5,000 homes target, the cause of the 1,000 homes promised to the people of Dominica this year by the parliamentary Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, the dream behind the international airport and the geothermal plant, is to ensure that what happened to Dominica 6 years ago never repeats itself. The benefits of social efficiency is intractably tied to reduced inequality in a society. And Dominica's building of resilient infrastructure has been consistent in raising the banner. Our second factor for this debate, under the stance of social efficiency, is the building of resilient infrastructure for sustainable development. Situated in the middle of the Lesser Antilles, or beautiful Dominica, we get impacted by most, if not all, passing storms and hurricanes. We need to live safely and in comfort in our hurricane-proof homes. As a nation living in a global community, we need the means to communicate, to say hi, hello, I dare we. This is a priority, especially for post-disaster recoveries. After Maria, Dominica was cut off from the rest of the world. For us, we could not call our loved ones and let them know that we were okay. Most of the diaspora thought we were dead. This just concretes my point that we need to be resilient in our energy resources, our telecommunication services, and our infrastructure. Are we not tired of using US data for Dominican debates? We need a resilient research center. We can't afford losing all these documents and information every 5 to 10 years. So that we won't have one parliamentary speaker speaking unmannerly to another parliamentary speaker saying, where is the statistics? Becoming the first climate resilient nation in the world can become possible if we focus on investing in capital-intensive infrastructure, such as those we are debating today. Hurricane Maria ravaged our beautiful country, destroying a large fraction of our economy, Mr. Speaker. 226% gone in a few hours. Years of hard work, years of labor and investments blown away, Mr. Speaker. What are our strategies? We are looking at eco-friendly energy, a long-term renewable resource. It is our defense against unnecessary wars and tyranny. We will be the ideal location for geo-enthusiasts, as well as geoscientists for new study and research. Mr. Speaker, renewable efficiency for Dominica, renewable energy efficiency. This will help us pave the way for Dominica to be the leading nation in the industry in the world. Not only can we become climate resilient, but we can help other nations be climate resilient as well. By doing this, we are facilitating UN Sustainable Development Goal number 7, affordable and clean energy, and goal number 13, climate action.
Honourable Member, you have 5 more minutes to complete your presentation.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the member receives 5 more minutes to complete her presentation. Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
we
so
know
much.
the teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it has been moved and seconded that the honourable member be given an additional 5 minutes to complete her presentation. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Honourable member, you may continue.
Thank you, thank you. By building our international airport, we create convenience for the tourism and agricultural sectors. We create convenience because of direct and shorter flights. And I'm thinking about our florists and soap makers and hand sanitizer producers and our natural hair gurus. You know, we will have wider access for resources going into and out of the country as we find ways to grow economically through what? Through globalization. We'll have quicker foreign market access that gets business done within minutes or hours. Our popularity will increase, which will boost the tourism industry and foreign market exchange. In doing so, Mr. Speaker, we meet UN Sustainable Development Goal number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Encompassing all we have discussed today, allow me to introduce to you the Human Development Index, which is this era's ultimate method of measuring a country's development. Permit me, for our presentation's sake, to use an important quote on the Harvard Business Review's website in an article written by Amit Kapoor and Bibek Debroy, which are journalists and which is a journalist and an Indian economist, respectively, on October 4, 2019. And I quote, Mr. Speaker, "Economic growth has raised living standards around the world. However, modern economies have lost sight of the fact that the standard metric of economic growth, gross domestic product, or GDP, merely measures the size of the nation's economy and doesn't reflect a nation's welfare. Yet, policymakers and economists often treat GDP or GDP per capita in some cases as an all-encompassing unit to signify a nation's development, combining its economic prosperity and societal well-being. As a result, policies that result in economic growth are seen to be beneficial for society. We now know that the story is not so simple, that focusing exclusively on GDP and economic gain to measure development ignores the negative effects of economic growth on society, such as climate change and income inequality. It's time to acknowledge the limitations of GDP and expand our measure of development so that it takes into account a society's quality of life," end quote. The United Nations Data Center measures the HDI using indicators such as life expectancy, expected years of schooling, and environmental sustainability, nothing really to do with economics, really. The United Nations Development Program described the HDI as the ultimate criteria for assessing the development of a country, because a country cannot be assessed by its economic growth alone. As we unify social efficiency with the Human Development Index, and we've explored the qualitative benefits of the capital projects we are discussing here today, we can certainly see, Mr. Speaker, that social efficiency is doing a lot to introduce room for dynamic efficiency, which is the improvement of efficiency over time. The Honorable Farrell said, not because something, I quote, "not because something is working doesn't mean it can't be improved." But let me address the Honorable Member through you and say, this is the job we are getting done. By focusing on social efficiency, we are making room for dynamic efficiency. Clearly projected results will be increase in jobs and fixed incomes, increase in the nation's inward cash flow, increase in sustainable development, increase in international access, increase in exportation and foreign markets. All of this can be a reality, but all this can be stopped by a single storm or hurricane if we do not prioritize. For those of us who need to remember Hurricane Maria and Tropical Storm Erica, and for the older folks listening who can remember Hurricane David, Hurricane Marilyn, remember the severe impact of those natural disasters. We lost communication. Our roads and bridges were destroyed. Our homes were blown away because we failed to meet these natural disasters with resilience. Is it right to work so hard just for it to be destroyed every 5 to 10 years? Is it right to allow excessive social inefficiency to prevent us from becoming the first climate-resilient nation any longer? Do you think we are ready to experience isolated communities, death, psychological trauma, hunger, and the state of extreme poverty all over again? I remember, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable on the opposition side asking, what exactly is poverty? How do we categorize it? Well, I can clearly see that extreme poverty is when you have to go without food, water. That was what we experienced after Maria. So Dominica can get to the point of extreme poverty. All this I just mentioned, this is for our justification. What investments will be made in these projects? As we strive to ensure resiliency, social efficiency for dynamic efficiency, bear in mind that this year, Despite the opposition, bear in mind that Castle Bruce, Paybush, Woodford Hill, Trafalgar, Kings Hill, Eggleston, Collyho, Point Michelle, Grand Bay, the Kalinago Territory, and every community from Capuchin to Kashaku will see climate-resilient, new, modern homes. When? This year. If we don't make a concentrated effort toward nation building and postpone and mix and mingle as the opposition think is best, what will be in the best interest of our people? We must ensure that Dominica's best interest is at heart and do what is most favorable for the people of our beloved Dominica. Are we forgetting to mention investments already being made in agriculture, MSMEs, public works and the digital economy, healthcare, education? My dear parliamentary representative just signed for new schools in the Chinese embassy yesterday. Are the opposition members failing to acknowledge the efforts that the government is making for smoke and mirrors? Understand that focusing solely on something moving forward does not stop what is presently taking place now. The government of Dominica is preparing this nation to be resilient against international catastrophes and climate change for the sole purpose of Dominicans breaking the standards of the echelons and rise. As I close, let me leave with you a verse from the Holy Scriptures that will matter to every heart today. And I read from Isaiah 60, 1 through 3. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers over the earth, and thick darkness is over its peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. Thank you for your time, Mr. Speaker, and I wish you a pleasant good afternoon.
Honorable members, please refrain from the wooing. Yes, you may tap the desk in support of your colleague, but let's please remember that we are in the House of Parliament, and that is not parliamentary. Okay, I recognize Honorable Rachel Andrew. You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, with your leave, while I deliver my contribution, can I refer to my notes?
Yes, permission is granted.
Mr. Speaker, standing before you is Rachel Andrew, Shadow Minister of Public Works and the Digital Economy. Or you can refer to my ministerial position as Dominica's future, because that is exactly what it is. Mr. Speaker, I rise to give my contribution on the resolution being presented in its honorable House today. As the Shadow Minister of Public Works and the Digital Economy, I am not in support of this resolution. What are we going to tell our people from Petit Savan patiently waiting on their crossing, or our people of Botica on their bridge project? What do we tell them if we move forward with this resolution? Most importantly, Mr. Speaker, what are we going to tell our youths of Dominica, both here and abroad, who are finally seeing a sign of hope and future development for themselves within the digital economy? Our business professionals, individuals of this nation, who we have told we found a way to solve their day-to-day problems. What do we tell them, Mr. Speaker, if we make the decision today to accept this resolution? Mr. Speaker, while I understand the importance of Dominica's resilient housing project, after Hurricane Maria, when I looked outside in the village of Sufria, so if not, majority of the houses were destroyed, and when I look outside today, I must commend the government for a job well done. But Mr. Speaker, Hurricane Maria was in 2017. We are in 2022. How does housing bring across efficiency as opposed to a sector like the digital economy? I would believe that if efficiency is what we are aiming for, the digital economy should be our main focus, as it is the use of technology as a solution to our everyday problems. It doesn't matter who we are or what sector we may work in, the digital economy and transformation will make an impact for us all. Look at the Work Online Dominica program, Mr. Speaker, an initiative by the government of Dominica through the Ministry of Public Works and the Digital Economy in collaboration with Israel Aid and UNDP. According to the Minister of Public Works and the Digital Economy, Senator the Honorable Kasani Laville, via Zoom meeting. To this date, a total of 120 young professionals were provided with training based on their skills, given marketing tips, and making themselves available to the global market to access online opportunities in the form of gigs. That is 120 young professionals in Dominica, now skilled to earn income online, Mr. Speaker. The minister stated that the program has been successful thus far. Many individuals with disabilities, stay-at-home moms, and individuals with full-time jobs looking for evening gigs, they have benefited from this program. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, this proves that the project is already making an impact. The digital economy and transformation project is making an impact. So much that the third cohort has been launched and interviews are taking place as I speak. What we should be addressing is the limited numbers of only 60 individuals allowed to participate in each cohort. We should not be rejecting young people interested and determined to gain employment. Matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, we should be publicizing it on each and every platform. Let us change that traditional thinking of the only way someone can earn an income is by working a 9-to-5 job. Let us use the digital economy to create future millionaires and billionaires in Dominica. Mr. Speaker, I do not make this statement lightly. There are individuals making up to $50 an hour in this program. I am not proposing that individuals leave their day jobs, but use programs like Work Online Dominica to earn extra sources of income. The government, Ministry of Public Works, and the digital economy should not only train individuals to obtain jobs online, but bring online jobs to Dominica. The same way we can equip individuals with skills to gain online jobs, we can and should create programs to source contracted jobs and employ individuals to complete based on their skills. Implementation of this will cater to individuals interested in Work Online Dominica program, but unable or uninterested in sourcing the jobs online. Mr. Speaker, unemployment is a huge problem. Our youths deserve better. The digital economy and transformation offers just that. It is time we put an end to our youths, our people's unemployment cries. The Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit stated in the 2019 manifesto that the development of the digital economy in Dominica is one of the major pillars of the government's vision to build a dynamic Dominica. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, permit me to ask these questions. Why is the digital economy not mentioned in the resolution presented in this honorable House? Why would we not now invest in the digital economy and the digital transformation project when the entire world is moving in that direction? The digital economy is the new boss. COVID-19 has shown us in this world, but particularly in Dominica, the benefits of ICT and being able to commerce online. From ordering of food from KFC, to linking with quick delivery, to having it delivered to our doorsteps. Fully transforming from face-to-face learning to online, enabling our students to gain an education in this pandemic. And now the ministry has plans to digitalize all government services. Mr. Speaker, take my recent troubles just trying to get my vehicle registered as reference. 4 to 5 hours is how long it took going back and forth to an insurance company and inland revenue to do what, you may ask? To fill papers and make payments. That could have been done from the comfort of my home. Mr. Speaker, do you see why the digital economy and the digital transformation project is needed in Dominica? By looking at the high traffic numbers in Dominica, I am sure I am not the only individual who went through this tedious process. Mr. Speaker, this is just one out of many day-to-day problems we face in Dominica. Why? Because we haven't digitalized our economy. Mr. Speaker, do you see why we should welcome the digital economy with open hands? Our people need ease of doing business. The government secured a loan of EC $75 million from World Bank to fund the digital economy. But, Mr. Speaker, we must not forget it is a loan. We have to eventually pay back these funds. If the government plans to restrict government expenditure on housing, the international airport, and renewable energy for the next 3 years, it hurts my heart to say this, but we should stop investing in the digital economy and draw back from it. Or else this will come as expenditure, Mr. Speaker. What we should be debating in this honorable House today, Mr. Speaker, is how the Ministry of Public Works and the digital economy plans to go ahead with the implementation of the Caribbean Transformation Digital Project, passing and reviewing the required legislation, stating what should be a priority, and how we plan to get our people and country ready for that change that will make a difference for us all. Mr. Speaker, educating and training our people is priority for this project to be successful. Information technology should be acknowledged at primary school level, and I'm not speaking about just having our students on a computer. They need to actually know how to do networking, program applications. Teaching styles should be modernized. Structured internship with evaluation from our college students, especially our computer science and information technology majors. Mr. Speaker, as we are aware, change is not something that comes across easy for our people. Therefore, we have a lot of work to do. We need digital economy and transformation customer representative, going house to house, informing our people about the project, finding out their day-to-day problems, and showing them how the digital transformation project can assist them. Mr. Speaker, there is no denying that the international airport is of great need and desire to our people and the expansion of our economy. But I question, should we achieve it at the expense of public works and the digital economy, when in fact, they should be working hand in hand? Mr. Speaker, the digital economy is here and ready and able to assist in proper airport management system, check-ins, and significantly improving our digital footprint. Mr. Speaker, we must also allow our micro, small, and medium enterprises positioned to capital form. We must also ask ourselves, are our micro, small, and medium enterprises positioned to capitalize from the international airport? To date, based on information gathered from the company's registry, about 10,000 MSMEs are recorded in Dominica. Do our MSMEs, especially those recovering from COVID-19, have all the required documents to access the $27,795,988 at a 3.5 interest rate, which the government made available at 8 Bank Dominica? What measures have we put in place to ensure our micro, small, and medium enterprises utilize these funds to continue to gain profits and not foresee bankruptcy? Mr. Speaker, this is exactly where the digital transformation project comes to play. From the minute an individual decides they are ready to invest in a small business, they should be able to register and pay online. From this, they should use the same login information to access an application equipped to deal with all small and micro businesses' needs, from financial support to creation of business plan, to marketing, to training, to networking, anything, Mr. Speaker. The digital economy will improve efficiency for all sectors. Therefore, we cannot afford to not invest in it right now. We have merely hit the surface when it comes to the incorporation of the digital transformation of our country. Our e-payment services are in the beginning stages. The development of the digital economy policy and strategy is in the draft phase. In regards to security, our computer emergency response team is not yet finalized. Mr. Speaker, now let us focus on the public works part of my portfolio. The ministry, according to the information gathered from its official website, and I quote, "In the arms of the government responsible for the national infrastructure, namely road network management, coastal management, irrigation and drainage, and water resource management."
Honorable Member, you have 5 more minutes to complete your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In light of this definition, I wish to ask, is the proposing team really proposing that we not maintain our roads for 3 years? Mr. Speaker, if our roads are in poor shape, how will people access school and work? If housing is our priority without the incorporation of public works, how will the contractors access the houses? The little pothole problems we have now will turn to reconstruction of entire road projects. do we believe that will be in the best interest of our government's pockets? I thought safety was our #1 priority. If that is true, you believe it's wise that we not maintain our roads? Mr. Speaker, in closing, if we as a country want to improve efficiency, we need to invest in the digital economy that will solve our day-to-day problems, create job opportunities for our youths and people right now, and not in the next 3 years. I thank you.
Yes, I recognize Honorable Paloma Mark, Minister for Tourism. Minister for Tourism, International Transport and Maritime Initiatives. Honorable Mark, you may proceed.
Thank you. I would like to send warm greetings to my daughter, Joelle, my family members, Pastor Smith, Mr. Colleen Baptist, Ms. Sherry Jeffrey, and Honorable Dennis Charles. With your leave, Mr. Speaker, may I be granted permission to refer to my notes?
Yes, permission is granted. You may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, members of this honorable House, distinguished guests, fellow Dominicans at home and abroad, friends of Dominica, greetings. I rise to speak from the portfolio of tourism, international transport, and maritime initiatives. Tourism is known to be everybody's business. My vision of a dynamic Dominica is creating opportunities for meaningful change. I am of the opinion that government should indeed focus on its expenditure on capital projects that should be restricted to housing, the international airport, and renewable energy for the next 3 years. But what do we mean by the term capital projects? These are large infrastructural, usually expensive projects built by the government for the improvement of public life by using public funds. These projects include airports, housing schemes, power plants, etc. My focus will be on the international airport as it is of utmost importance to my ministry. Mr. Speaker, there is a well-known issue of air access to Dominica, an ongoing issue because of the absence of an international airport. The Ministry of Tourism is the key ministry charged with the task of building and managing our long-awaited international airport. I am blessed to be so positioned and part of one of the best parts of Dominica's history. Despite what the opposing side may say, this airport is no political gimmickry. It will soon be a reality. Mr. Speaker, for us to understand where we are now, we do have to mention the past. It was in 1975 that the Dominica Labour Party first announced plans for the international airport under the leadership of the then Premier, the late Honorable Patrick Rowland John. Some 450 acres of land had been earmarked for the airport and other related projects, but no land was ever paid for. Decades later, our small nation still couldn't offer direct flights to and from Europe and the US mainland territories until now, as we have American Airlines landing at the Douglas Charles Airport, an improved facility with night landing capabilities. Mr. Speaker, I take this opportunity to commend the government of Dominica for taking this bold and wise decision to invest in the construction of an international airport, which will be financed by the Citizenship by Investment Program. Despite the obvious good that the international airport will have on this island, it is without saying that this project is without its critics. Mr. Speaker, there has been great debate on whether or not the Wesley Woodfordale site is the best suited site for this facility. However, there is a mountain of evidence showing that this is indeed the ideal spot for such massive infrastructure. According to reports made by Samuel Johnson, CEO of Dominica's International Airport Company, with an interview with me via the telephone, on March 19, 2022, I quote, "The international airport site selected meets international safety standards. The area has an obstructive straight-on and access departure to enable precise landings. The site is also capable of a runway long enough to accommodate Boeing 777 and A350 wide-body aircrafts." Close quote. Mr. Speaker, the opposing side may ask, why should we invest in an international airport? We in Dominica have a vibrant and unique tourism product that truly sets us apart from the entire world. It will expand and enhance all sectors and build a more robust and diversified economy. Mr. Speaker, to be frank, if people are unable to come to Dominica, then we will be unable to do business. Direct access to the product, Destination Dominica, has always been our major challenge. For years, tourists flying off the beaten track to this tiny Caribbean nation of Dominica have been relying on island hopping from neighboring countries via planes or boats. The weary tourists could as easily land in any of our sister islands just because we do not have an international airport. Further, there would be the benefit of short or no transit times at all. Though we have the best attractions, though we have the best brands, if it is difficult to attend to the island, it adds that much friction to the journey of a visitor. Our international airport shall put to rest the age-old problem of direct access. Mr. Speaker, we are very much aware of the constraints to travelers. Not only is the trip extended, it becomes more expensive. Using current market rates, without an international airport, a round-trip ticket from North America to Dominica ranges between $800 to $1,000 US. The promise of an international airport has matured in modern-day reality. Hence, therefore, its construction is set to be completed in the year 2025. It will be a game changer for our small country, opening up a world of opportunities for the tourism and economic transformation. The state-of-the-art modern international airport shall be the best of its kind in this hemisphere, the envy of all. Honorable Dennis Charles, Minister for Tourism, stated to Skift News Online on July 15, 2021, I quote, "Tourist arrivals will increase the amount of 674 ready export rooms and more resorts like the exotic Cannabis, Kipinski Resorts and Spa, Jungle Bay Hotel, just to name a few, and soon to open a Nietzsche Hotel, in order to reach the main goal of 2,000 rooms island-wide, close quote. Five-star hotels are things that we looked at on TV and have dreamt about, but right now, they are proudly smiling in our faces. This is the uncontested evidence of development. I needed to restate such points to that they would deeply sink into the consciousness of the opposing members, some of whom may selectively be blind or could be in dire need of thinking aid. Mr. Speaker, I can safely say that there is no better time to review business opportunities in Dominica than now. Employment, especially in the tourism sector, is vital to the economic prosperity of our beautiful island. The number of jobs created during the process of the construction and actual completion of our international airport will be significant. Employment opportunities for heavy equipment operators, truckers, skilled and semi-skilled persons, food vendors, farmers, small business owners, fisher folks, and countless other persons will be a natural consequence of this international airport during its first initial phase. Mr. Speaker, fellow parliamentarians, you will agree with me that many tourists travel to experience the hosting destination's culture and traditions. This is very profitable to the local restaurants, shopping centers, and stores, which can cater to the needs of our visitors. Further, these new jobs will not only be restricted to the tourism sector, but may also include the agricultural, communication, health, and the education sectors. They will have to provide raw materials, information support, health and safety services, and training to the tourism sector. Employment begets employment. Construction will also include the transformation of our already sound road network in the Northeast to facilitate proper access to the new international airport, which I'm sure we will all welcome. Direct flights allow us to have smooth flow of goods and services to and from the international markets. Mr. Speaker, we have an abundance of perishable flora and fauna that can be sold in the same day. Our fisher folks in Fort Saint-Jean, Point Michel, Foncole, Harlem Newtown, Posse, Soufriere, Scotshead, and Marigot, yes, Marigot, will all benefit from this facility. This will most certainly open doors of opportunity for trade to our businessmen and women. Same-day delivery will also lower the cost of freight duties. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I must point out that we will not be left with any financial burden once the international airport is completed. We are not going to burden the generation with a loan facility to make this project a reality. Astounding strides have been made to accomplish this goal, and I rise for the good of this country and state to applaud the government of Dominica for using the CBI funds wisely. CBI is our engine of economic growth, and we as patriotic citizens must seek to defend this program. Our livelihoods depend on it. Mr. Speaker, time is of the essence. If we do not invest in young people, we are basically investing in our future generations. As a responsible government, we ought to factor the real-world events in our policy thinking tanks. Take, for example, the current Russia and Ukraine war in Eastern Europe. Papa Bodzier, Papa God, what are the implications for Dominica? Ukraine is the world's top supplier of wheat and its byproducts like flour, cereals, and bread. If this conflict continues any longer, there will be a global shortage. Major news networks such as CNN, BBC, and Al Jazeera have all mentioned this fact. Many consumers seen an emerging economic phenomenon. It is called shrinkflation, where the price of the product remains the same, but the content of it is reduced. The IMF and the World Bank have forecasted a global decline in world economic growth indicator by 2%. Mr. Speaker, the listening and viewing public, the mass media. So right here in Dominica, we need to be more sustainable and find ways to plant staple crops to make flour and to find other ways to generate energy, especially geothermal energy. We need to be self-sustainable. We need to eat more of what we grow and grow more of what we eat. Our government's policy is in this direction, as seen through our many investments in the agricultural sector. All these expended efforts are aimed to allow us to stand on our own 2 feet, whether it be in times of adversity or peace. Mr. Speaker, the proposed international airport will allow young entrepreneurs to establish new products and services that will not be fully utilized by the local population alone. For example, during the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, we saw the rise of so many innovative small businesses by the youth. Some of these were service-based, like delivery services, but even more were product-based, and these same products can be sold at our international airport and beyond.
Honorable Member, you have 5 more minutes to complete your presentation.
Ask for more time, please. Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the honorable members and to be granted an additional 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm loving the teamwork, by the way, just saying. It has been moved and seconded that the honorable member be given an additional 2 minutes to complete her presentation.
Thank you.
Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Honorable member, you may proceed.
Examples of these small businesses owned by the youth are the Art Gallery by Marshall Mark, Local Dose, and Cameron Leather Goods, just to name a few. Further, quicker access to necessary ingredients, improved packaging, and air access to export their products would be boosted by the international airport. This airport will doubtlessly enhance Dominica's capacity to import a greater number of consumer products touching every sector. Mr. Speaker, I wish to advise the youth of this nation to continue to think deeply on the careers that they would like to pursue under the Ministry of Tourism, seeing that Dominica will indeed need more pilots, aviation managers, engineers, technicians, maintenance workers, and flight attendants, and more. Mr. Speaker, we may not share the same blood, but we do share the same passion in our hearts. I am a mother, a good one to be exact, and I am certainly passionate about creating a better and more sustainable future for my daughter in order to make her life easier. For it is written in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I will truly say that the government should focus its expenditure on capital projects that should be restricted to housing, the international airport, and renewable energy for the next 3 years. This focus should especially be on the international airport, as it will directly affect so many other islands and improve the life and livelihoods of so many in this country. Mr. Speaker, in Dominica, we have the blessings of God. We have the products. We have the resorts. We have the people. We have the natural amenities. But Mr. Speaker, what are we missing? We are missing the international airport. And we are not willing to wait any longer. Forward ever, backward never. Thank you.
Yes, I recognize the Honorable Yannick Regis. Yes, Honorable Regis, you may begin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon to the members on the proposing side of the House, the members on the opposing side of the House, and many people who are listening on GIS today. Mr. Speaker, I stand here today, but first, Mr. Speaker, the memory of my late cousin, Mr. Edward Regis, comes to mind, Mr. Speaker. The former member of Parliament for the Granby constituency, as well as a former president of the National Youth Council. I can imagine him right now, Mr. Speaker, smiling down at me, being very proud, saying that's my cousin, Mr. Speaker. My name is Yannick Regis, Mr. Speaker, and I represent the Shadow Ministry for Sports, Culture, and Community Development. Mr. Speaker, I rise here today to give reasons why I am of the firm opinion that government's expenditure on capital projects for the next 3 years should not be restricted to only housing, the international airport, and renewable energy. Mr. Speaker, I heard a lot of talk today about dynamic Dominica. Mr. Speaker, the government has focused on the development of Dynamic Dominica as outlined in the Dynamic Dominica Manifesto. This dynamic plan encompasses a number of critical development sectors that will assist in the sustainable development of the Dominican economy. Mr. Speaker, aimed at ensuring that the future of the youth of this country is set on a path of success and resilience. Mr. Speaker, these 3 projects mentioned are all infrastructural projects and no doubt will contribute to the significant development of the country. But, Mr. Speaker, focusing solely on these projects, it means that there will be no concentration on the human resource development required to drive and, Mr. Speaker, ensure the success of these projects. Mr. Speaker, youth development, and I see the president of the NYC here, as well as the chairperson of the NYC on that side of the House, Mr. Speaker. Youth development and empowerment is at the center of the dynamic Dominican Manifesto, Mr. Speaker. Are you saying to me, Mr. Speaker, that we must put the development and the future of our youth at the back burner and only focus on these infrastructural projects? And are you saying to me, Mr. Speaker, that we should not invest in ensuring that Destination Dominica is not promoted worldwide and to complement the development of the international airport? And Mr. Speaker, are you saying to this honorable House that we should not invest in the necessary amenities, all in preparation of receiving the many visitors to this beautiful country upon completion of this international airport? Mr. Speaker, I don't understand how we can have the president of the NYC here supporting this resolution when we have a number of youth centers that needs to be rehabilitated, Mr. Speaker, and renovated. I don't understand, Mr. Speaker. They're comfortable and they're supporting this, Mr. Speaker. This is not right, Mr. Speaker. This is not right. Mr. Speaker, I am of the firm opinion, Mr. Speaker, the firm belief that with the construction of the international airport, that we must ensure that we take every opportunity to develop the various subsectors of the tourism sector, Mr. Speaker. And I just heard the honorable member of this side of tourism mention a lot about tourism. But, Mr. Speaker, I make special mention here of sports tourism, Mr. Speaker, which is very near and dear to me as I'm an avid sports person. Let me remind this House, this honorable House, that only last month that we returned to organized sports here in Dominica. And as we proudly and successfully hosted the OECS International Netball Series. And, Mr. Speaker, we hosted that at the Windsor Park Sports Stadium forecourt. And it was only because of the government's foresight to have this facility constructed and readily available for games. And, Mr. Speaker, I take a step back at this moment to commend the Ministry of Sports, the Sports Division, the Netball Association, as well as, of course, the Pitchlight Boys for working overtime to ensure that this tournament could happen. Mr. Speaker, this tournament brought in significant economic benefits to a lot of businesses in Dominica at a crucial time. Mr. Speaker, this tournament opened the eyes of the world to Dominica and what we can offer in terms of sports. And so, Mr. Speaker, the development of the stock farm indoor facility and the synthetic track are essential components to the development of our young sportsmen and women of this country as they look forward to creating a career, to building a career in sports, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I can't leave out the lighting of the Windsor Park Sports Stadium playing field, Mr. Speaker. And as I see the honorable member, the honorable Senator Kasani here, it brings some joy to my heart, Mr. Speaker. We sat on the board together once upon a time. Mr. Speaker, I don't know about the members on this side of the House, but I can speak for the members on this side. We want to watch cricket under the lights, Mr. Speaker. We want to watch 2020 under the lights, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I can say for you as well that you enjoy your cricket. I can imagine you coming to watch the games as well. Mr. Speaker, it was in a movie I was watching last night that they said, the movie was A Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. And Mr. Speaker, that is exactly what these projects are targeted for, Mr. Speaker, to get people to come into Dominica for tournaments, for festivals, just like what we had there, and even better, Mr. Speaker. And that is the goal of having these facilities. And we cannot leave them on the side, Mr. Speaker. We can't push them on the side. We cannot, not at this point, not at this juncture. Mr. Speaker, Dominica's unique cultural heritage, to include our cultural dances and the culture of the Kainago people, are the other areas that need to be promoted, Mr. Speaker. So, we must ensure that facilities such as the Arak House of Culture and the Old Mill Cultural Center are fully functional, Mr. Speaker. areas, Mr. Speaker, will complement the tourism experience here in Dominica and encourage visitors to spend more and, in turn, contribute to the economic development of Dominica, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the development of the human resource of any country is critical to its advancement. The government must continue to invest in the human capital, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, government must assist in equipping our health professionals to successfully provide services required at the hospital, Mr. Speaker. Major investments in modernized equipment have and continue to be put in place at the Dominica-China Friendship Hospital, Mr. Speaker, and the soon-to-be completed hospital in Marigot. Mr. Speaker, am I being told that we should not invest in ensuring the required personnel are trained and ready to provide the services for those in need of it? Mr. Speaker, the government has had the foresight and the forward thinking of preparing to ensure that our citizens are provided with the best health care possible, Mr. Speaker. They are also prepared, Mr. Speaker, to provide specialized medical care for citizens of our neighboring countries, Mr. Speaker. No longer will we have to go to the Guadelupes, the Martiniques of the world. They will be coming to us, Mr. Speaker, as we are being prepared here in Dominica to be the hub for top-class medical care, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, the allocation of resources must reflect this. Mr. Speaker, we are living in a technological era, and we must align ourselves to take advantage of these international developments. I speak here, Mr. Speaker, in investing in the digital economy. Just like the members before mentioned, this is essential to the development of Dominica, Mr. Speaker. We all, Mr. Speaker, can remember the COVID-19 pandemic. It had taken, well, we're still in it, Mr. Speaker. It has taken its toll on world economies around, including the economies of small island developing states like Dominica. But, Mr. Speaker, it has also provided us with this unique opportunity to take advantage or to advance our technology. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the work online program, like my honorable member here mentioned, young people can work from home and still earn a living, Mr. Speaker. They do not have to migrate, Mr. Speaker, and they can contribute to Dominica's economic development, and they benefit their families as well. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we must continue to invest in the expansion of the digital economy. Mr. Speaker, if we are to only concentrate on construction of houses, renewable energy, and the international airport, like the members on this side mentioned, for the next 3 years, I would like to ask, Mr. Speaker, how will we be working towards achieving our goal of becoming the first climate resilient country in the world, Mr. Speaker? How? Mr. Speaker, Dominica has developed our National Resilient Development Strategy, the NRDS, a clear articulation of this government's policy towards the realization of this goal, Mr. Speaker. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, the NRDS was put together in keeping with international mandates like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Government has even went further, Mr. Speaker, in developing the Climate Resilience and Recovery Plan, which sets out a clear map to the development of Dominica as a climate resilient country. Mr. Speaker, investments in programs and projects are aimed at achieving these targets Mr. Speaker, must continue to be implemented. Mr. Speaker, infrastructural projects are only one component of the many components needed to develop this country. Mr. Speaker, the member, Mr. Speaker, of tourism, permit me to speak, Mr. Speaker. A little, permit me to speak a little. About the need, Mr. Speaker, the need to invest in food security. She merely mentioned we can help it, we can get this done, we can get that done. But we need to invest in food security, Mr. Speaker. The agricultural sector, to increase the fisheries and agro-processing are critical areas for the survival of our families. Mr. Speaker, investments in this sector will provide food security at all times, but more so in times of crisis, Mr. Speaker. We all saw, Mr. Speaker, that COVID-19 pandemic, the government invested heavily in ensuring that the population had food on its tables. Mr. Speaker, government needs to continue investing in the agricultural sector so that Dominica can truly become the food basket of the Caribbean. Mr. Speaker, investing in fisheries and livestock production can greatly assist in the reduction of our food income bill. That is true, Mr. Speaker. But we must invest in agro-processing at a larger scale. The Ministry of Trade must be given the necessary resources to explore and to secure external markets for the Dominican produce. Our farmers must be assisted to be consistent in the production and in order to maintain these markets, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to conclude my contribution today, I heard the member, how should I say, she decreased the value of roads, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, the Honorable Member McDougall. She just threw away the value of roads. We can do it with some potholes here, it's okay. But Mr. Speaker, I come from an area in the south, Pitchland, Mr. Speaker, where I traverse the road Tutong from, right, the Granby Road, Mr. Speaker. There's a project, a capital project, the Lubet-Bagatelle Road, that was put in place after the passing of Tropical Storm Erica, Mr. Speaker, and adjusted after the Hurricane Maria. Mr. Speaker, how long do we have to wait for this project? Do we have to wait another 3 years? Huh? The safety of the people means nothing to you. But who do you represent? Who do you represent? Mr. Speaker, I don't know about her again. Sorry, I don't know about the honorable member here again, Mr. Speaker. But the members on this side understand the value of life, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this is not a project we can just leave and push on the side again. We have to get it done. We have to be proactive, Mr. Speaker. We're not going to wait till the next hurricane to come again and then adjust to the plan. Once again, Mr. Speaker, we're going to do it now, Mr. Speaker. We're not going to wait any longer. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to say, Mr. Speaker, that the community enhancement project is something that has made significant impact in our communities, Mr. Speaker. Significant impact. Just last month, a young gentleman from the community of Granby got a project, a road project, and you can...
Honorable Member, you have 4 minutes to complete your presentation.
It's good. Okay, it's okay, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was saying, just last month, a young man from Granby, he signed a contract, for a road in this area. You know, from where I live, they say a journée to Hawaii, Mr. Speaker, a day's work. A number of them got that, Mr. Speaker, for a short-term period, which helped them significantly. We have to continue in this, Mr. Speaker, because we have to continue finding ways to reach the community, Mr. Speaker. And in closing, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to say that the 3 projects mentioned are all great projects, very important projects. Also that we on this side, we support those projects, we do. Honestly, we do. But we do not solely support them. We cannot solely put all our support in just these 3 projects, Mr. Speaker. No, we cannot. We cannot. So, Mr. Speaker, because of that, I simply cannot support this resolution. I simply cannot. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I leave, Mr. Speaker, let me just thank everybody who came together and have helped me to be here today. My community of Pishley, of course, the Pishley boys, my parents, Mr. Speaker, my family on a whole, the PSs who helped me, the members of the Ministry of Environment, the staff who helped me as well, Mr. Speaker. And I also want to say thank you to my parent for his continuous support. And, of course, Mr. Speaker, God, thank you.
Yes, I recognize Honorable Kudel Coffee, Minister for Public Works and the Digital Economy. Honorable Minister, you may proceed.
All right, okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker. I am going to be referring to my notes, if I am permitted to do so during my speech.
Yes, that's no problem. You may proceed.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Kudel Coffee, Minister of Public Works and the Digital Economy. Mr. Speaker, comrades, listeners, and viewers, prayer, purpose, patience. 3 P's, as I call them, 3 principles that I live by. I repeat, prayer, purpose, and patience. 3 random words. What do they have to do with the government restricting capital expenditure to housing, the international airports, and renewable energy? Mr. Speaker, I quote from the Bible, Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. It says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." Dominicans, to succeed in any endeavor, we must put God first. The next principle is purpose. We are proposing a bold move, but it is for a righteous cause. No one man can do everything. No one government can accomplish all tasks in its tenure, Mr. Speaker. How many of us here today make a to-do list, and we don't even do half of what is on that list, Mr. Speaker? So because of that, Mr. Speaker, and this proposal, we need clearly defined short-term strategic goals that will yield long-term benefits. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, for such an endeavor, we need patience. Rome was not built in a day, and anything done quickly will never last. One must learn to have patience, to wait for when the time is right to achieve certain goals. So I repeat, prayer, purpose, and patience. Let's keep this in mind as we debate. We have heard extensively from my other comrades about the various benefits of focusing on these areas. And I will propound today why my ministry, the Public Works and Digital Economy, fully backs this initiative. It was back on August 1st, 1834, the day slavery was abolished on the lands of Dominica, that our forefathers began the path to self-sustenance. This led to our independence in 1978 and further growth in the self-resilience of our people. You see, we have a rich history here in Dominica of being leaders and innovators, learning to adapt to different conditions. And Mr. Speaker, to adapt as defined by the Oxford Dictionary is to become adjusted to new conditions. And indeed, one thing we know how to do in Dominica is to become adjusted to new conditions. So my ministry, the Public Works, sees our citizens as more than capable to adapt to a restricted budget. For it's just 3 years. That time going to pass so quick, Mr. Speaker. So let me first highlight a few budget trends that shows the government has already invested more than enough money into my ministry. In 2011, Mr. Speaker,
the government allocated 42.3% of budgeted funds to the public works industry alone. By 2013, 3 years into this decade, the government allocated still 33.12% of funds to the public works sector. By 2015, even when we saw the implementation of new ministries, the government still allocated most of its funds to the public works industry, 26%. And Mr. Speaker, I can take it back to 1993, to Honorable Dame Eugenia Charles in her 1993/1994 budget address. She stated that 44.7% of loans for the public sector investment program was allocated to the Public Works Ministry. So, Mr. Speaker, we have a history and a trend here of allocating most of the funds to the Public Works Ministry. Other than these statistics, the government has invested millions and millions of dollars in several projects for the Public Works Ministry. As reported in the 2021 budget, $5.7 million was loaned by the Caribbean Development Bank to reinstate the river walls and the roadway west of the Lai Bridge. And most recently, in 2022, the government has embarked on several projects within my ministry, like the East Coast Rehabilitation Project, the restoration of the Roseau Valley Road, and the Hillsborough East Bridge, totaling $145.6 million. And that is only a few out of the several projects, Mr. Speaker. And to the opponents that say, well, what about the other industries? I say I have an answer for that, Mr. Speaker. Do you know our country's motto? It is written on our coat of arms. The cadets here have our coat of arms on their masks. It says, Après bon Dieu sur la terre. Mr. Speaker, after God comes the earth. Well, the government surely remembers this motto, and they have made every initiative within their capacity to see that the agricultural industry progress. In 2013, Mr. Speaker, the banana accompanying measures, a program negotiated with and financed by the European Union costing $54 million was implemented, and it was set to mitigate low productivity and other inefficiencies in the banana industry. In that same year, funding of $11.2 million was secured from the Alba Bank to construct a coffee processing plant in Portsmouth. By 2020, no, let me tell you where it is. By 2020, Mr. Speaker, we see even more major improvements in agriculture. There was an increase in production where 4,409 acres of land is being cultivated, with an estimated increase in 20% of revenue for 2,748 farmers. So look, there it is, okay? Mr. Speaker, now this is just one sector. What about education? Currently, $2.5 million has been set aside to make infrastructure developments to the Dominica State College. And Maho School students will soon say goodbye to school at the community center and hello to their newly refurbished state-of-the-art school being built because it was destroyed recently by Hurricane Maria. Now, these statistics, though minor, because I'm only here to speak for a short moment, are still very important. It shows that even if the government allocated more funds to the areas of housing, international airports, renewable energy, other industries are still able to receive funding and undergo projects that stimulate advancement. And Mr. Speaker, it is critical to note that our government is being tasked with a great ordeal. We are dealing with crisis, Mr. Speaker. Look at the world around us. COVID is still kicking our backside. Russia and Ukraine are still at arms. Prices are rising, and the average worker is finding it even harder to earn a decent income. And not one...
Honourable Member, I'm going to ask you to withdraw the statement you made about kicking our...
Okay.
You know, as
I withdraw.
a bit unparliamentary.
I apologize.
Okay, so you withdraw?
Yes, I withdraw.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. And other than that, Mr. Speaker, we are still dealing with recovering from the financial and social impacts of Hurricane Maria. Now, I've brought statistics about other industries and their growth. Let me tell you how my ministry, the Public Works and Digital Economy Ministry, can benefit from the housing, international airports, and renewable energy. I want to give you a story to keep in mind as I speak about the mutual benefit here between the two industries. When you think about things that go together, you think about things like peanut butter and jelly, or something local, fig and saltfish, right? You wouldn't think of something like pilau and ketchup. It's just a joke, my comrades. Let me give you a better example. You wouldn't think of something like salad and ketchup, right? So when you think of the public works industry and housing, international airport, renewable energy, you may think it's salad and ketchup, doesn't go together. No, let me tell you why it's fig and saltfish. With housing, how can we build houses and no roads to go there? Not only roads, but we need proper sewage, reliable electricity, and efficient water supplies. Even our brothers across the sea in St. Lucia can see the direct correlation of the housing and public works industry, Mr. Speaker. If you allow me to quote from a budget address of Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Honorable Alan Chasnet. In his budget address, Mr. Speaker, for the 2021/2022 fiscal year, this current year, he detailed a housing policy that seeks to increase the number of St. Lucian landowners and provide citizens with access to safe and affordable housing. It was also highlighted in that budget address that the program will be accompanied by construction of roadways, drains, and culverts, as well as the installation of water and electricity supply networks. So, Mr. Speaker, there is a direct correlation between the housing and public works industry. And for the international airports, we need proper roads to access these facilities as well, Mr. Speaker. So we're not saying stop the public works initiatives. We're saying merely put some more emphasis into the initiatives that help the housing, international airports, and renewable energy. And as it pertains to renewable energy, all, and I repeat, all ministries can benefit from having clean and green energy. We constantly hear the complaints, the light bills are too high. And as we move into a digital space, we need cheaper and more reliable energy sources. And while we are still trying to establish our geothermal plants, I want to share some other avenues of expansion. Dominica has enough sun, Mr. Speaker, for a solar plant. We have enough rivers for hydropower. And dare I say, even if we call ourselves the Nature Isle, we have enough garbage and waste littering the streets for a waste-to-energy plant. This is... thank you. And, Mr. Speaker, briefly, before I conclude, I want to mention the digital economy aspect of my ministry, which was recently implemented in 2019. This leg of my ministry has already secured a $75 million loan under the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project, a project funded by the World Bank. Mr. Speaker, this project seeks to increase access to digital services, technologies, and skills in Dominica and other participating Eastern Caribbean countries. So this leg of my ministry is secure in our current funding. We are not greedy. We don't want the government to keep putting money into us when we have money already, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, why would my ministry advocate for the disbursement of 8,000 tablets to primary school students and they don't have a home to go to charge it? Mr. Speaker, why would we advocate for e-commerce and e-trade and also not support efforts in renewable energy when that can cut costs and save like value engineering in our departments? Why would we say no to an international airport when that very thing can expose us to improved technologies beyond our current capacities? You see, there is a developing world. There's a world developing rapidly outside of Dominica, Mr. Speaker, and it is time for us to get with the times. I highlighted statistics that showed heavy investment in my ministry. I stated the benefits to my ministry of this proposal. I highlighted other ministries and their growth, and I've also mentioned why the digital economy supports such an initiative. I want to reiterate again, the 3 Ps: prayer, purpose, and patience. More importantly, to purpose, with a more focused approach, Mr. Speaker, to the free industries, the government can roll out more regulations and also meet with stakeholders that can become disenfranchised by such things as government-sponsored housing. And there are ways that we can cut costs too, Mr. Speaker. We can try and mitigate and cut costs within the government, consolidate ministries, maybe. So, Mr. Speaker, I spoke earlier about self-sustenance, resilience, and adaptability. But another important thing here is community. It's not only about what the government can do for us, but what can we do for ourselves, Mr. Speaker? Do we remember the stanza in our national anthem? All for each and each for all? The citizens of Dominica has always been the key component to our success. When European conquerors came to Whitey Kubuli, as she was known, tall is her body, Mr. Speaker, they met the fierce resistance of the Kalinagos, who fought off these conquistadors, so much so that Dominica was one of the last islands in the Caribbean to become colonized. So, Mr. Speaker, we must look for the advancement of our people. How dare we say, let us focus on tourism? Okay, no problem. So when the tourists come here, Mr. Speaker, with their Gucci and their Rolex and their Laja Shesh, their dry money, for them to see Dominicans living under tarpaulin and 2 pieces of plywood, is that what we want? Mr. Speaker, I have traveled extensively and met a lot of people, and they don't know what the Caribbean is. You tell them you're from Dominica, they think it's Dominican Republic. They still think we're living under mud huts and carrying banana on our heads. And we do, yes, we do. I cannot, but shout out to the people who do. My mother can carry a cylinder of gas on her head. But Mr. Speaker, do we want tourists to come here in 5-star hotels, and when they walk the streets of Dominica, they're seeing our people living under cellars? I've seen the videos, Mr. Speaker. There are still people in Dominica living under cellars. Is that what we want for our people? My people, is this 2022 or 1942? I am tired of paying highlight bills. I am sick and tired and fed up of traveling to Dominica and my luggage staying in Puerto Rico. What is this? Is it 2022 or 1942, Mr. Speaker? And how dare, Mr. Speaker, the opposition members stand here and quote a song, "Forward We Go," yet in that same speech advocate against initiatives for advancement? Mr. Speaker, it's best he say backwards we go. Is in the Stone Age, it seems he wants us to stay. So, I quote.
Please refer to the gentleman as the honorable member, please.
Honorable member, it seems it's in the Stone Age. You want us to say honorable member from Mr. Speaker. So I quote Mr. Speaker in closing here from His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Each nation has an inherent right to shape its own destiny and to seek its own way to the high state of advancement which the 3 nations of the world has attained. My people, we have been tasked with our own advancement. We must grab the opportunity, and on this path, we need prayer, purpose, and patience. If you don't remember anything I said today, remember prayer. We've got this. Anything can be accomplished. Purpose. We must have an area of concentrated efforts, and patience. We need to take things one step at a time. I thank you.
Yes, I recognize Honorable Fire Lander from the opposing side. Honorable Lander, you have the floor.
Honorable Philip Rowe, Speaker of the House of Assembly, the proposing and opposing leaders, members of this Honorable Youth Parliament, good afternoon. Before I commence, it would be remiss of me not to say the warmest of greetings to my JCI family who nominated me to be here and serve them in this honorable house. So to all my JCI family, I want to say good afternoon. At this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, I beg to ask your leave to refer to my notes during my presentation, though Honorable Member Coffey has been reading from them, but I will continue to do so.
Honorable Member, permission is granted for you to refer to your notes.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your kind acknowledgement. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make my contribution and to oppose firmly in this honorable House the resolution passed by the members on the proposing side that government's expenditure on capital projects should be restricted, not prioritized. Clearly, you have forgotten what the topic is. When you say restricted, through you, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to address the members on the other side. And I had to leave the House a while ago to refresh my memory, because the Honorable Member Wallace went ahead this morning and she made it clear to us that it's not a matter of economics, but rather a matter of common sense. And as a young man who prides himself in his common sense, I went back to the dictionary to understand the principle of what it means to restrict. And in finding, I found that to restrict means to put a limit on and keep under control. So, Mr. Speaker, when the members on the other side of this House, on the proposing side of the House, are saying to restrict capital expenditure, as the Honorable Member just said, are we going to forget the roads to get to the houses? Mr. Speaker, this morning, the Honorable Member, Ms. McDougall, made it very clear that once you reach to the roundabout, there are no potholes. But what about the Antrim Road just before you reach to the roundabout? Where is it? Mr. Speaker, on the other side of this House, we must think and use our conscience when we come inside here and realize we are not here for ourselves. We are not here for our personal interest. We are not here for us to sit down and look pretty. Mr. Speaker, it's for us to stand up as young Dominicans and put forward the necessary resolutions that will bring progress. Mr. Speaker, before I get into my presentation, I just want to let you know that I am upset. In case you missed it. Because I sat here and I expected that the members on the proposing side would have come and put forward and let us understand what they meant exactly by restriction. But they have not done so. And they want to tell me during lunch break, Mr. Speaker, that what they mean by restriction is to prioritize, and it is the same thing. I mean, yes, if I go on in a thesaurus, they might be linked as similar words. But Mr. Speaker, when you say you restrict, that means you're forgetting other things. Yes, it does. Because if I restrict your blood flow right now, Mr. Speaker, as a nurse, that therefore means I completely forget the rest of the blood that's going to the rest of your hand. While some blood may go, and if I leave it restricted for 3 years, Mr. Speaker, your hand will be cut off. Money is the blood of the nation. Money is what makes us move. Money is what makes our pockets fat and can put clothes on us, Mr. Speaker. But when we want to put people in houses and we don't have people making enough money to put food in their fridge, Mr. Speaker, tell me, who are we really helping, ourselves or the people? Mr. Speaker, I'm all for housing. And we on this side of the Honorable House, the opposing side, we are all for Dominicans. We want to see an international airport, Mr. Speaker. Of course, I want to go to New York and come back the next day. Mr. Speaker, if you see, we were making enough money, Mr. Speaker, and there were jobs, because they're talking about, for the housing projects, the number of jobs that were created. But my question, Mr. Speaker, through you to the members on the other side, to the proposing team. That's right, we have to remember who proposed this particular resolution. When we say we are restricting expenditure, and the honorable member made it clear that she's talking about capital expenditure and not recurrent expenditure. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm a nurse by profession. I don't know anything about economics, I'll be very honest with you. Not a thing. Oh, so again, while the members were speaking, you saw me exit the house to do my research, because I believe that at the end of the day, that we are coming here to put forward pragmatic solutions for us as a people in this country to move forward, right? So, Mr. Speaker, capital expenditure, as is defined by Investopedia, are long-term, capital-intensive investment projects with a purpose to build upon, add, or improve a capital asset. They are defined by their large scale and large costs relative to other investments that involve less planning and resources. For example, infrastructure development, roads, bridges, highways, and government buildings. But Mr. Speaker, while we want to see renewable energy come forward, of course, the light bill high, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we want to go and fly out today and come back tomorrow, straight flights, no, as the member Mark made reference to the island hopping. All of us don't like that, Mr. Speaker. The hot airports, the expensive airport food. But guess what, Mr. Speaker? If we don't have people to employ once the place is built, what are we just going to have an airport there? When we take our time to build an airport and we don't invest in the people, Mr. Speaker, and we forget about what we are already doing, Mr. Speaker, and the member, Ms. McDougall, the honorable member, Ms. McDougall, made it very clear that she has her concerns about us misconstruing capital investments and recurrent expenditure. I do hope I'm quoting you correctly. Okay, my apologies. But Mr. Speaker, it begs the question, what exactly are we even talking about? So when we come inside this honorable house and we talk about efficiency, and as defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, which is the quality or degree of being efficient, being capable of producing desired results with little or no waste, Mr. Speaker, the members on the proposing side are trying to pull a fast one on us by saying that in 3 years, we are supposed to be able to, as a country, build an international airport, build sufficient houses for people, and also to establish renewable energy. The only member on the proposing side who put forward solutions other than the geothermal energy project was the member Coffee, but all the others spoke about a project that has been in existence for 7 years, Mr. Speaker. So, if it took us 7 years to get to where we are in a geothermal project, Mr. Speaker, now back to the common sense problem we were talking about a while ago. 3 and 7. Last I checked, that's 4 years difference. Thank you very much. But Mr. Speaker, I want us to understand we are about solutions on the opposing side. We're not against the country on the opposing side. We're not against progress on the opposing side. What we are against is wasting the country's resources and not focusing on what we need. Mr. Speaker, focusing only on housing, the international airports and renewable energy for the next 3 years does not and will not improve efficiency. in the government service, but it actually makes governance less efficient and more onerous. Mr. Speaker, in this uncertain era, which with issues such as COVID-19 and the current war, how can any forward-thinking government only focus on housing and international airport and renewable energy for the next 3 years, Mr. Speaker? 3 years! How lucid is that? Mr. Speaker, on the proposing side, we have educated people and they are trying to propose this. Mr. Speaker, we have engineers on the other side, future lawyers on the other side. We have a PhD candidate on the other side who is proposing this nonsense. Mr. Speaker, with John, nonsense is not unparliamentary, but I'm frustrated. Mr. Speaker, I'm frustrated. Honestly, let me drink some water because Mr. Speaker, do not get me wrong. I'm in no way denying that utilizing the government's expenditure on capital projects, such as those proposed, are important. These, as we are all aware, are important organs of our economy, but focusing exclusively, seeing that we want to talk about synonyms, on these 3 areas will not guarantee efficiency. And unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, I've been sitting down since this morning, listening to my fellow honorable members on the proposing side, and they have failed to prove the concept of efficiency. That is what we're here to discuss. Whether or not investing the money in these 3 projects is going to make us more efficient as a people. We all, as Dominicans, would love to see our international airport come to fruition, to travel from Dominica to anywhere in the world with less transits. We have all experienced the dreaded island hopping tours, as the member Mark said, that we know it's not so fun. Mr. Speaker, having an international airport would generate economic growth, provide jobs for people, increase revenue, but having government expenditure restricted. Wait for you to clap, Nessa. Wait. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. Through you, Mr. Speaker, the honorable proposing leader should wait to clap because I'm not done yet. But Mr. Speaker, I want the other members within this House to understand that when we create these jobs, are they sustainable? The members who are, the Dominican youth who are employed to build this international airport, what happens when the airport is done? Do we send them back to the streets? What projects are we planning within the next 3 years to implement and use these skilled laborers that we have now trained? So, Mr. Speaker, when you say, as a young, and the honorable member is saying, right, roads, but when you don't have roads yet to get to the international airports? Quite frankly, Mr. Speaker, this is a case of putting the cat before the horse. So when we as a people, and as my honorable member on this side, Mr. Farrell, Honorable Farrell said, we cannot afford to put all our eggs in one basket, Mr. Speaker. You want to know why, Mr. Speaker? Because the Honorable Tricia Youssef made it clear that in mere hours, houses that, and today is not the only day that we've been talking about building houses that are resilient, because remember that after Tropical Storm Erica, the discussions on resiliency started. But then, so we're already there, right? And now, we are now saying, Mr. Speaker, that these houses that we intend to build will be resilient. But those same houses that were repaired and fixed and things were done on them, guess what happened after Hurricane Maria? They too were affected. And in mere hours, as quoted by the Honorable Tricia Youssef, 226% of our GDP was ravished, Mr. Speaker, brought to crumbles, Mr. Speaker. Hours. And in 3 years, you want us to say, yes, focus on housing, focus on international airport. restrict only. So, Mr. Speaker, I turn my attention back to housing. We look around here in Dominica at the many housing projects, and of course the Honorable Yuseb listed them all very well. Hurricane Maria decimated many homes, as we all are aware, and these housing projects are timely and affordable and has provided relief to many Dominicans. And I would like to reiterate, Mr. Speaker, we on this side are not against housing at all. Our issue is restricting only to housing, which is what the honorable member, when the honorable member opened the debate, and she said, therefore, if I may quote, Mr. Speaker, from the resolution, therefore be it resolved that government's expenditure on capital projects should be restricted to housing, the international airport, and renewable energy for the next 3 years. Mr. Speaker, we don't have no problem with housing. We will be wicked on this side, Mr. Speaker. I would be wicked as a young person who just like the Honorable Coffee, has seen the videos of people living under cellars. Where would our conscience be? I told you you're wicked.
No. Honorable member, you have 5 more minutes to complete your presentation.
Good day. I move a motion so that Honorable Lander will receive 5 extra minutes to finish his debate.
It has been moved and seconded that Honorable Lander be given an additional 5 minutes to complete his presentation. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Honorable Lander, you may
Thank you, Mr.
continue.
Speaker, and thank you to the honorable members. Mr. Speaker, with time running out, I now turn my attention to renewable energy. In doing this, I wish to commend the government of Dominica for being at the forefront in the use of renewable resources of energy among the OECS countries. In fact, in 2016, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean indicated that Dominica is the CARICOM member which consumes the largest proportion of its energy from renewable resources. But, Mr. Speaker, at that time, we were only doing so through hydroelectricity. When hydroelectricity was brought into Dominica, we started off with hydroelectricity providing for us 40% of our energy consumption was produced through hydroelectricity. Do you know what it was 6 years ago? 28%, depleted by 12%. Of course, renewable energy, Mr. Speaker, is something that we are for, and of course, we realize with the SDGs, which I come into. And we realize that the world is moving towards the concept of renewable energy. But, Mr. Speaker, we have to also realize that while we are investing in these projects, we have to create for ourselves contingency plans. Because, as was rightly said by the Honorable Yuseb, where we are situated in the Caribbean puts us at an extensive risk. Once a hurricane passes in, the tail, the eye, the head, the stomach must pass near Dominica or over us. So we do not have the luxury, like our sister island Barbados, to have said prior to last year that we don't see hurricanes, or it has been years since we've seen hurricanes. Almost every 3 years we've seen a hurricane, whether category 1 or very recently category 5. And these resources and these projects all have infrastructure that in mere hours can be destroyed. So, Mr. Speaker, renewable energy sources will not run out. Renewable energy is most times reliable. Renewable energy is environmentally friendly. Renewable energy can increase public health. Renewable energy technologies create lots of jobs. Renewable energy technologies require less maintenance costs. However, utilizing government's expenditure on a capital project such as renewable energy, it is innovative and progressive and improves efficiency. However, should not be restricted for only the next 3 years. exclusively on renewable energy, or where rather 1/3 of our investment should be on renewable energy, Mr. Speaker. Especially, Mr. Speaker, when, and on the proposing side, you know what they were doing today, Mr. Speaker? They were sticking to geothermal energy, forgetting that we already have an investment of hydroelectricity that is suffering, Mr. Speaker, depleting by 12%. But, Mr. Speaker, we want to talk about a geothermal energy project that the environmental impact assessment conducted in 2018 indicated that there is a potential that this project may increase subsidence in the project area. As a result, geothermal fluid extraction, and therefore, prior to mitigation, there may be potential. So what that means, Mr. Speaker, is that, for those of us who are not geoscientists, is that the earth underneath the geothermal plant starts at some point in time, starts to crumble beneath it. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't know about you, but I know I like the earth under me to be stable. And just like the argument of the proposing side, the geothermal project is not entirely stable. And I want us to understand that we are not against geothermal energy, but expecting us as a people to solely focus on geothermal energy, which is what they are proposing, Mr. Speaker. Because it's not renewable energy, again, forgetting the topic at hand, Mr. Speaker, trying to pull a fast one on us, but I've been paying attention, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I will conclude, because of course we don't have all day, and I have to rest for October because I come in just as hard. Mr. Speaker, in order for there to be improved efficiency in Dominica, Dominica must be seen as a country with the ease of doing business. Government departments can be merged so that there is a one-stop center. Can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, that right now when accessing healthcare, you have to give your basic biographical information every time? When you go and do your test now, you have to give it next week, you have to give it again. The week after, you have to give it again. If you come and get a vaccine today and come back and get your booster, you have to give your information again. Mr. Speaker, can you imagine? And it's just a set of paperwork. And guess who bears the burden? Not the policy influencers and department managers. Guess who? It's us, the nurses, Mr. Speaker. No, Mr. Speaker, I don't know about you, but I don't like roaches. We must step away from all this paper. Mr. Speaker, imagine a Dominica where you walk into your health center for care, and all you have to tell the receiving is my number is 524. Or he or she scans a barcode on your national health card, and boom, all your biodata is there right in front of them, Mr. Speaker. That, Mr. Speaker, is what I call efficiency. And that, Mr. Speaker, is what we should be seeking to invest in. So, Mr. Speaker, if the members on the proposing side are seeking to make us prioritize, as they are so keen on saying, Mr. Speaker, you want to know what I suggest to them, Mr. Speaker, through you? They must go back to the drawing board, because they have failed the people of Dominica to prove to them that this is how we can move forward as a people. Mr. Speaker, they want to tell me that they want to forget about the indoor sporting facility that has been proposed. No, they might say, where did I say that in my presentation? No, Mr. Speaker, but when you say you restrict it only to the international airport and only to housing and only to renewable energy, that means you forget everything that you have promised. And for 3 years. Because guess what, Mr. Speaker, guess what else happens in the next 3 years? Another election. So, Mr. Speaker, I want all of us to understand, in the next 3 years, the government should put forward programs that are going to make people want to keep them there. We have to put forward programs that are going to build the economy. They have to put programs that is going to employ young people, give them the strength, give them what is necessary for them to grow and be sustainable. Because again, and I find it very funny that the members on the proposing side are suggesting that they can achieve all this in 3 years, and they keep quoting the SDG goals. And I have a question to you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, it's rhetorical. Do you know when the SDGs were first established and when they're expected to be completed? I shall answer that for you. It was set up in 2015 and is expected to be carried out in 2030. You know how long that is? 15 years. And they, on the proposing side, are suggesting that they can achieve some semblance of efficiency in 3 years. 1/5 of the time, Mr. Speaker. I don't know about you, Mr. Speaker, but as was rightly said by the Honorable Member Wallace, this is not an issue of economics, it's an issue of common sense. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, for us as a people to move forward pragmatically and emphatically, we as a people must seek to push our decision makers, those who have the persons who make the decisions for us, and let them realize that we must invest in our youth, and nowhere apart from creating jobs for the youth. Nowhere in their statement, Mr. Speaker, did they talk about establishing infrastructure for youth. Especially, Mr. Speaker, when they're forgetting education, when our students of the Goodwill Secondary School still don't have a home in 2022. Mr. Speaker, I can stay and talk all afternoon, but my time has elapsed, and I just want to let the members on the other side know, do the right thing. Please, you know what to do.
Never. Never.
Yes, I recognize Honorable Ashma McDougall, Minister for Trade, Commerce, Entrepreneurship, Innovation, Business and Export Development. Honorable Member, you may wind up this debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the arguments today focused on a tri-project, as the Honorable Member from the Northeast mentioned, a tri-project on presenting a systematic redesign, a plan that has high impact, most amenable to improvement, and broadly inclusivity in several respects. Boy, Mr. Speaker, I was trying my best, to really hold my words today to the honorable members on this side, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me first draw attention to the honorable member from the West, who was misquoting figures earlier, thousands for millions. Economic growth. We are talking about development, and there is no clear evidence that GDP contributes to development. There is no clear correlation between GDP and development. The member from the South, the road. I mean, Mr. Speaker, we cannot eat roads. We cannot eat roads. The road from Bagatelle, the road from Bagatelle to Lubia, Lubia to Bagatelle, $30 million, £30 million, sorry. The geothermal project, which will take 2 years, US $40 million. If we're talking about efficiency, we're looking at impact. So you're telling me that the lowered costs that households would recognize across the island is much less than the roads? I believe, do Don't worry. It starts, Mr. Speaker, with this resolution, it starts with effectiveness. An effective, comprehensive macroeconomic framework that will have multiplying effects on each sector. Housing, Mr. Speaker, we are on the road to a resilient and sustainable development. There is a consensus, and we don't disagree, that the digital economy provides a new impetus for sustainable economic development. But Mr. Speaker, what home will they work from? Young people can work from home with no house. What home? Housing is cited as the top policy objective, and we are closer to the mark, improving quality and improving affordability. Mr. Speaker, housing is the cornerstone. We cannot eat roads. We cannot. But we can eat in the house. We can eat in the house. Mr. Speaker, excuse me. Mr. Speaker, control.
Order, please. Allow the member to make a presentation, please. Order.
Mr. Speaker, the nurse might just have to come and take their temperature on the other side. Mr. Speaker, if we truly seek to improve efficiency, we must consider sustainable housing models. Renewable energy. Mr. Speaker, I said it I elaborated. And the honorable member,
you have 2 more minutes
on the other side here, when I held up my 10 fingers, he apparently must be going blind in one eye. The geothermal plant is at its final stage of the development process. 2 years. 2 years is all we need. Mr. Speaker,
Honorable member, please contain yourself. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, no priority setting process is perfect. But I've not been convinced that putting each egg in a basket will improve efficiency in Dominica. What is the right thing? Well, that's how the honorable member started off. Mr. Speaker, the right thing is prioritizing housing, the international airport, and renewable energy for the next 3 years. That will improve efficiency.
This concludes the debate on the motion. I will now put the question. Be it resolved that the government's expenditure on capital projects should be restricted to housing, the international airport, and renewable energy for the next 3 years in order to improve efficiency. Those in favor? Aye. Those against?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to request a division.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I second that motion.
Okay, we will now have a division. Clerk?
Okay, opposing team, Firelander.
Nay.
Lakia Joseph. Rachel Andrew. Anika Andrew. Adicia Burton, Daniel Martin, Anessa Laura, Gabriel Libla, Zebediah J. Maxwell, Benton Julius, Owen Jose Maxime, Yannick Regis, Cornelia Adams, Jedediah Farrell,
Nay.
Lorenzo Sanford. Proposing side, Ashma McDougall,
Aye.
Ashfred Norris,
Aye.
Cadell Coffey, Trisha Yuzel, Wendy Wallace, Amika Cognet, Stefina Martin Williams, Kevin Scott, Shema Etienne, Paloma Mark,
Aye.
Hanif Gregoire, Jayan Abraham, Michael Alin,
Aye.
Shay Gittins, Keanu Winston,
Okay, as it relates to the vote, we have on the proposing side 14 ayes, and on the opposing side we have 15 nays. Which means that this resolution cannot be passed. At this point, I wish to now call on the leader of the proposing side to provide us with some closing remarks, followed by the leader of the opposing side.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's very difficult to follow after all that passion and great emotion from the House. But the House is a place of facts. You know, and persons must make every attempt to ensure that they divorce the emotion, you know, all the emotion and all the fire that they have in them, you know, and to ensure that you address matters with a sober mind, you know, very sober mind. So we will get back to the prioritization issue and national development, but let's go back to the genesis of our topics of debate, which was the legalization of marijuana and economic opportunities for the youth. So firstly, I'd like to say from Forbes magazine, which is a reputable US magazine, it is stating that the hemp industry, which is derived from CDB, is a $1 billion industry which produces many opportunities for the youth and is quickly evolving and growing bigger and bigger in the US, with the US stating that it has hit $4.6 billion in 2020, just after 2 years of getting federal legalization for cannabinoids. So the opposition leader, Lakeya, who is not there presently, she made mention to the largesse. The largesse is in the THC.
Honorable member, please translate.
Yeah, largesse, all the money, the dry money, all the money.
Thank you.
Is in the THC. But there is so much money to be earned from the CDB, where we have hemp. So I was gonna say if she was there, I realized she stepped out, but I was gonna say to her that with hemp, I know she has her nature blends, but she's coming. With hemp, you can do clothes, shampoos, soaps, you know, even vegan burgers. You know, there are so many different things that you can derive from that hemp industry, that growing hemp industry. And I think she herself could benefit from it, given that she's into rose oils and all these beauty products and stuff like that. My fellow member, Mr. Norris, spoke about the diaspora and the involvement in the diaspora.
Honorable member, please refer to the gentleman as honorable member.
Honorable member, Mr. Norris. He spoke about the diaspora and getting the diaspora involved. But according to DNO, there's another Dominican that he failed to mention of. His name is Elvis Papi Edwards, and he's from Wesley, Calavishi area. And this guy has a US-based cannabis and hemp business. And he has sounded the call. He has sounded the call for Dominica to take advantage of the hemp industry, given all the vast opportunities that is involved. And he is proposing to make a free contribution to Dominica in his first batch of 100% organic, non-GMO seeds to Dominicans as a kickstart for the industry. So when we couple that with the Prime Minister's contributions that he made as recent as last week, where he spoke of providing suitable lands for young farmers to cultivate and greenhouses, then this just sounds ideal. We already have persons in the diaspora who are willing to contribute to this industry and revitalize our agricultural industry. So we must look at that. So we must not only think of the THC component and persons getting high and we growing and cultivating marijuana and exporting marijuana, but what about the byproducts? There's a byproduct industry. And when we look at Jamaica, who is currently involved in the whole marijuana industry and they have legalized for commercial use, they have spent so much of their investments in the cultivation and exportation of marijuana. But they're slowly realizing that the real money, the real largesse, the real money is in the byproducts, the secondary and tertiary products from the cannabis. So there's a lot of money out there to be earned from this industry. There's a lot of opportunities from this industry as well. Another thing that Mr. Edwards was proposing or suggesting is that the Ross University campus that we have in Picard at this moment, this in itself could be transformed into a school for medicine and marijuana, where we could have research studies being done there, labs, you know, all these things that he has suggested of ways that we can kickstart the marijuana industry. So we must look at these things. The honorable member, the opposition leader, I was just saying you were not present at the time. But there are many benefits for you as an entrepreneur. You are the owner of Nature Blends, right? So hemp products, creams, shampoos, soaps, clothing, food, paper, bioplastics, rope, energy bars. All this could be derived from hemp and the hemp industry. Another point I want to make is that the member, Honorable Andrew, made mention to ensuring of the management and all the risk factors that's involved, and to ensure that we have a comprehensive approach, which is very important. In Jamaica, there is the Cannabis Licensing Authority, and their mandate is to ensure that there's specific role is to regulate Jamaica's legal ganja and hemp industry. So they are the one coordinating the process, granting licenses, have the prerequisites. The persons have the prerequisites. So all these things are already set in stone in terms of the procedure, the template of how to move forward this industry. And given that Dominica is coming now after them, after St. Vincent and Jamaica, we have the opportunity to look at the lessons learned. Where have they gone wrong? What are the mistakes that they have made? We can now sit back and look at this thing and strategize so we don't make those mistakes. Also, in my presentation yesterday, we spoke of a comprehensive market research, demand and supply. What type of brand of marijuana should be cultivated? What are the suitable lands? I remember I spoke about damaging or destroying our lands. I think Honorable Burton spoke about that. Are you aware that there is 60% forest cover in Dominica at this time? Are you aware of that? 60% of our lands is not developed. Can you imagine that? Dominica boasts to be the largest OECS country, bigger than Barbados and St. Vincent and all these places. Can you see the contrast in densification and development? We have an abundance of lands in Dominica ready to be utilized and to be cultivated with a crop that has proven to be viable, that has proven to make money for the youth in the other countries. And we are saying, as the government, a timely intervention by the Prime Minister, willing to support the youth, give them a startup, greenhouses, lands. This is the problem that the youth have in Jamaica right now. They don't have the startup. They don't have the lands. They don't have the money to invest. So we are saying we are right on track. We are right on track to take advantage of the marijuana industry and the billions of dollars that we can derive from it and earn from it.
Honorable member, you have 5 more minutes.
Okay. Quickly, I must get back into the national development topic. Mr. Honorable Lander stood up just a while ago, and he was speaking of restricting, and restricting is not equivalent to prioritizing. But Mr. Lander spoke about expertise. I wish Honorable Lander, I wish he was here, but he's not here again. As a project manager myself, I understand what prioritization is. And there is something called must-haves, could-haves, should-haves, won't-have. So we're not saying that, okay, we want to do this for the next 3 years, but nothing else. We are saying this is what we can do right now. If you have a household, you have a salary of $2,000, school is reopening right now, you're going to spend your money on your kids to buy their school supplies, their bags, their school uniform. And there are certain things that you would have spent your money on, maybe a nice dress, maybe a nice shoe. But you will not spend it on that right now. You would spend it on your school supplies. So that's what we are saying. Additionally, there is something called blending in prioritization. And we are saying that housing and roads, there's the same, they're both intertwined. So we cannot do housing development without roads. We cannot do the international airport without roads. We cannot do the geothermal plant without roads. So that just shows that all these projects are all intertwined, they're all connected, and therefore, if we implement these projects, then we will achieve much more than attempting to do tupatuism everywhere, something everywhere. And that's what we are saying. And that is what the proposing team has been saying. So, my honorable members on the other side, I take your point. I mean, this is something that we have to look at. We cannot just rush into it. But we're just saying that this is a suitable approach to development. And this is something that the government should consider in developing this country. I thank you.
Yes, Honorable Joseph, you have the floor.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable members. Thank you for standing up, for standing out, and for representing the youth at this Youth Parliament 2022. Thank you for your avid contribution to this historic debate over the last 2 days, and a special thank you to my team. Thank God, we thank our families, our friends, our colleagues and contributors for the success here today. Mr. Speaker, as the shadow minister and the leader of the opposing team, I am responsible for trade, commerce, entrepreneurship, innovation, business, and export development. But, Mr. Speaker, while the opposing team is on the opposite side of the famous fence as it relates to marijuana legalization and its economic benefits to the youth, the mandating of COVID-19 vaccines, and the government's restricted expenditure to housing, the international airport, and renewable energy, specifically geothermal energy, we cannot wholeheartedly support the resolutions. Mr. Speaker, I rise once more to present my final contribution and conclusion to this debate and provide myself and my team one last chance to tickle the stance of the proposing team. Mr. Speaker, a $10.4 billion industry is exactly what we are seeking to penetrate as a nation. Our argument throughout the debate, Mr. Speaker, goes far beyond the cultivation and the use of the herb. We are to focus on the cannabis itself its medicinal benefits, the processing of CBD, and how we are to transform something traditional into something revolutionary. As my team resonated and we have proposed, is the effective planning, management, and execution of the marijuana industry so that we prevent the youth from falling through the cracks in the long term. No, wash your foot and come. Mr. Speaker, permit me at this time, since the proposing side failed to do so, highlight and commend the government and the people of Dominica for the immense progress we have made in the agricultural, tourism, and other sectors so far. It is indeed a wonderful sight to behold. But let me make it abundantly clear that we still have a lot of work to do. Mr. Speaker, Caribbean countries like Jamaica, Barbados, St. Vincent, the US Virgin Islands, and even Antigua have approved medical cannabis cultivation, while countries like Bermuda, Trinidad, St. Kitts, and Dominica are to follow suit, and my proposing colleagues applauded and alluded to their successes. But what about the risks, the challenges, the failures? Mr. Speaker, what we desperately need to take into consideration, what my team stressed on, and what we are actually here to determine are the possibility and sustainability of investing into this industry and the economic benefits to the youth. Mr. Speaker, the honorable proposing team leader argued that marijuana or cannabis is the way. And I agree, legalize the thing. But how and for whom? Mr. Speaker, we need to transform, package, and export dasheen and other root crops. Just an example. We need to vacuum seal and export fish and meat. We need to process coconut and castor oil for export. We need to transform banana stems to fiber as an alternative to cotton or silk. We need to transform the most versatile crops we have at our disposal. We need to create sustainable agro-processing and manufacturing businesses for the youth. Mr. Speaker, I believe in handling what is exposed to you. Mr. Speaker, while I agree with the proposing team about the economic benefits and the creation of jobs, taxes, etc., allow me to introduce us all to the over $100 billion industry of organic fresh cocoa and cocoa products, coconuts, cocoa water, coconut oil, and other coconut products, sugarcane, fresh fish and meat, exotic fruits, aquaponic produce, vegetables, and even cotton. All of which are being produced here and can be capitalized on without having to come to this honorable house to debate whether we should produce them or not. Mr. Speaker, according to McKinsey.com, the most effective route to improve the lives of a country's people, especially those in poverty, is to support agriculture and to support the efforts of those in agriculture. Mr. Speaker, the honorable opposition leader brought up Nature Blends, so I'll bring it up too. Nature Blends produces exotic teas, extracts, powders, and oils, coconut oil, castor oil, rose oil, like the roses I want to pick in front of the parliament anyways, it's illegal for me to do so. But as the owner of Nature Blends, seeing that these products are making waves locally and internationally, I should have already gotten some support for a factory or processing plant. Dexia should have already found markets both here in the region and internationally, and as a result, I should be exporting 5 pallets of products every week. Mr. Speaker, that is development, that is empowerment, and Mr. Speaker, that is progress. But Mr. Speaker, may I agree with the leader on the benefits of marijuana and its byproducts? But we may not ignore the logistics and the negative impacts on the youth. Entrepreneurs like JD's Naturals, Be Natural, Amos Adverts, Heaven Sent, Grazed by Ash, Big G's, Choco Dominic, Coco Label, and many other small businesses should be afforded the opportunity to scale up and level up, because up is up. And Mr. Speaker, the same goes for marijuana cultivation. If we are to delve into that industry, the youth and the businesses should thrive as a result. It's not just marijuana providing the economic benefits to the youth. As articulated by Honorable Aline on the proposing side, it is our ability to diversify and provide sustainable opportunities for them, for us, that breeds the economic benefits. What we, the youth, want are sustainable livelihoods and an enabling economic environment. Mr. Speaker, on the topic of COVID-19 vaccine mandates. WHO mandatory vaccines are a last resort. Read the headline of an article posted by unric.org. Dr. Mike Ryan, Executive Director of WHO Health Emergencies Program, reported, and I will summarize, that WHO's position is that vaccines should only be considered when the health gain from the imposition of vaccines is clear and proven to provide positive results, and that all other measures to get the people vaccinated have proven futile. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Winston on the proposing side, Honorable, careful, Honorable Winston stressed quite a bit on the fact that we need to take the jab. But we equally need a healthy environment, a healthy population, and a healthy and effective health and education system. Because if not, what is the reason for the jab? Mr. Speaker, we need to continue to engage, educate, and support each other in this fight. I understand that Mr. Winston has a bandage for every bobo, a sore. A bobo is a sore. But let me reiterate and assure you, Honorable Member, that this bobo we have discovered and been exposed to cannot be corrected with a band-aid. Mr. Speaker, how much time do I have?
Honorable Member, you have 6 more minutes.
6, okay, sufficient. No, Mr. Speaker, I will not speak for much longer as I refuse to expel any more of my energy on concreting the notion of priority versus restriction, as my colleagues alluded to before. And Mr. Gregoire, Honorable Gregoire cleared it up. I'm not going there. But Mr. Speaker, Honorable Wallace confidently outlined in her presentation that her propositions would have provided some relief as she articulated her points, and that it was not achieved, and that if it was not achieved, she would increase the dose, which she did. But while I support her stance, my honorable team members, Honorable Lander, and Honorable Maxime, being medical professionals themselves, will tell you that increasing the dosage of any remedy, we have to evaluate how it is affecting the patient. But, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, may I pose a few questions? Do you or would you purchase a vehicle without a driver's license? Would you put your shoes before your pants? Would you plant without having access to water or fertilizer? So tell me, how are we preparing to restrict our funding and focus to these projects in the name of development and efficiency, without having the adequate structures, policies, frameworks, management strategies, and sustainable goals in preparation for these developments? In places with international airports like Guyana, St. Vincent, St. Martin, and Antigua, that my proposing team members outlined in their contributions, already had the infrastructure, productive sectors, human capacity, and contingency plans in place for these developments. These Caribbean countries had their ducks in a row and the eggs equally distributed. So my question is, Mr. Speaker, do we? Mr. Speaker, my honorable opponents, especially Honorable McDougall and Honorable Wallace, echoed that prioritizing the capital projects will be by no means prioritizing the youth. But according to scientificworldinfo.com, the barriers and obstacles to economic growth and those that affect the youth the most are high illiteracy rates, poor infrastructure, human capital inadequacies, corruption, and poor government. Mr. Speaker, some might say, but what that woman talking about?
Honorable Member, you have 2 more minutes to wind up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You might say, what am I talking about? But Mr. Speaker, whatever the decision here today, I wish to urge us to get our ducks in a row and our eggs equally distributed. Let us, as we leave this honorable house today, rally with the youth, listen to them, and relay their ideas, their concerns, their challenges, and successes. Let us be the mouthpiece, as we have done here with this debate, in order to foster the enabling environment that will take us from 0 to 100 real quick. Let us make room. Let us make room for increased opportunities, more successful entrepreneurs and professionals, and an economic environment that welcomes progress and innovative solutions that bring the dynamic Dominica we envision. We proposed, we opposed, but our united vision is for a generation of dynamic leaders, dynamic educators, dynamic healthcare professionals, dynamic law enforcement professionals, dynamic policy and change makers, dynamic youth. Let us join forces, pool resources, and continue investing in agriculture, education, health and safety, digital economy initiatives, sports, culture, e-commerce and e-trade, Kalinago and indigenous peoples upliftment, tourism, and innovative national development sustainability efforts, such as solar and hydroelectricity, and new and improved agro-processing initiatives. Mr. Speaker, my fellow youth parliamentarians, Dominicans both here and abroad, family and friends, supporters and well-wishers, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for your time, and may God bless us all.
Thank you very much, honorable members. This concludes the debate. At this point, I would like to end this session and invite the President of the National Youth Council to give a vote of thanks.
Good evening to everyone, and I trust that everyone is still tuned in, and the feedback, the commentary from those who have been listening has been resounding. Honestly, we have made a mark, guys. Mr. Speaker, it is both an honor and a privilege, obviously, to stand in front of here on behalf of the National Youth Council of Dominica. When we were inaugurated in January 2021, we collectively came together and we knew that this group of dynamic individuals would definitely impact change. In fact, we started on a mission of creating the vision, effecting the change. And Mr. Speaker, I must add that sitting here this afternoon for the past 2 days is definitely effecting that change. I wish to thank, obviously, the House of Assembly, the Honorable Joseph Isaac, Speaker. He has been very instrumental in assisting the planning, the execution of this first sitting, and we are truly appreciative for the support. To you, Mr. Rule, the Deputy Speaker, who has provided much insight and guidance as a young individual yourself, and we hope that you'll be joining us in October for our second meeting. The servant of the people, the clerk of the house, Mr. James, beyond hours, I really cannot put it in words how much he has contributed to the realization of this successful seating, and we are appreciative and we are indebted to Mr. James. Mr. Speaker, the support of the Ministry of Youth and our Youth Minister, the Honorable Dr. Addis King, has been far-reaching, and we appreciate the support that has been provided to all of the initiatives that we've had thus far. And just in conversation with her earlier yesterday, I told her, expect something else from us coming on Monday. So we appreciate the extension that is always provided by the Ministry of Youth from our Honorable Minister, and as well from the Chief Youth Development Officer, Mr. John Roach. We extend heartfelt gratitude to the representatives from the Ministry of Education, Ms. Merita Hyacinth and Mrs. Joanne Roll-Carrette, who provided insight, who provided the expertise and their knowledge on both the planning committee and as well to our training sessions. So again, we say thank you. To our sponsors, the National Cooperative Credit Union, Josephine Gabriel and Company Limited, the Chinese Embassy, and as well, IROC Substance Pizza, the University of West Indies, and as well to all of the individuals who contributed to providing training sessions to allow the parliamentarians, youth parliamentarians, to deliver as they did today. We say thank you. Ms. Trudy Christian, Dr. Kimun Joseph, Dr. Shyla Esprit, the Honorable Prime Minister of Dominica, we are truly indebted. His support to this entire initiative is one that will go down in the books because he has seen the efforts from the youth. He has recognized the importance of providing an opportunity and a platform for youth to be empowered, for youth to be heard, and we are truly grateful. To the Cadet Corps and to the staff of the House of Assembly, we say thank you. But from the NYC, most importantly, to the national youth parliamentarians who have applied, we hope that the work continues. The work continues after the sitting. We were not selected, as the honorable member over here, Mr. Speaker, to look pretty in Parliament. The work continues outside of Parliament, right? We're going into our communities, we're meeting with young people, we're understanding their challenges so that we can effect change. But for the past 2 days, I must say, all of us gave a good account, and I appreciate all of the hard work that all of you put into this, and I commend you, I applaud you. Congratulations, guys. I really don't want to leave anyone else out, but I think I already have. To our selection committee, who obviously contributed to selecting the youth parliamentarians here this afternoon, thank you. Lastly, I want to urge individuals, especially young persons who were tuned in to the youth parliament over the last 2 days, take this as an opportunity to see how youth can potentially make a difference. A lot of youth sometimes feel discouraged. They feel like their voices are not heard. I'm pretty sure that something that was discussed within Parliament today will perhaps be reiterated here in April. So, thank you to everyone. God bless. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much, Honorable McDougall. It would also be remiss of me not to offer a few remarks, based on what I've seen transpire over the last 2 days. Let me start by saying, history was made. Over the last 2 days, I don't want to say you the youth, so I'm going to say we the youth because, I'm still there with us. So we the youth, we showed out and we showed up. And we showed the entire nation and the world by extension that we are ready, able, and willing, and most willing to contribute to matters of national development. I'm immensely proud of each and every one of you, not just as an individual who sits in the official parliament, but as one of your peers. I'm extremely proud of each and every one of you, and I salute you. You all give good representation of yourselves and the portfolios and shadow portfolios which you held. Actually, which you hold, because we will be continuing in October. And I must say, in large measure, you all abided by the rules of the House. Especially for first-timers. I believe that, there are many takeaways for our current sitting national parliament, and I can definitely tell you, myself included. Essentially, what you guys did over the last 2 days was break the internet. You all went viral. And, with all the negatives that seem to permeate our social media, words can't sufficiently express how refreshing it is to see our youth going viral with such positive, with such poise, with such pride, and with such intelligence. No memes, no funny videos, no distractions. Just progressive and upful vibes, strictly upful vibes. And this is an upful vibes. And this upful vibes, I challenge each and every one of you as young leaders to continue on social media and, more importantly, in your communities. Like I said at the beginning yesterday, I'll say again today, not only are we the youth of the future, but we are the youth of today, the now. And like Honorable Annika Andrews said, we have to say it good. We say it good. Now, for you, this is not the end of a journey. This is only the beginning. Because at this point, people are watching you. Essentially, you're public figures. So we have to do good, and we have to ensure that we continue to be an example to the persons who are listening to us and will most definitely follow us. So with that being said, I look forward to watching you all, and I look forward to supporting where necessary. And I just want to keep it very short and just say that once again, I am extremely proud of you all, and cheers to each and every one of you. Thank you. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to the Honorable Speaker of the House, Honorable Joseph Isaac.
I heard we did a thank you, vote of thanks, but I wanted to personally point out two people I think that were left out in the vote of thanks. I would like to personally, on behalf of the House of Assembly and all parliamentarians, I would like to thank Ms. Ashma McDougall for leadership so. I would like to also thank the National Youth Council Executive for, again, showing maturity, organizing, and showing professionalism. Give them a round of applause. Sometimes we keep overlooking most important group, our stenotypists who are here with us today. Give them a round of applause. But it is with immense happiness and hopefulness that I address you, the honorable youth parliamentarians, as we close the first session of the first meeting of the National Youth Parliament for the period 2022-2023. But there is a saying, the reward for great work is more hard work. And therefore, I would like to tell you that you have made all of us proud, all Dominicans proud, as you debated in a passionate but civil manner, very civil, while I see you following and respecting the rules of the House, that is the standing orders. I saw where sometimes you made mistake, and when the speaker asked you to withdraw, you withdrew. No argument, no debate, you withdrew. But in between, I saw, most importantly, that you enjoyed your session. And I think not only you as youth parliamentarians, but I think it's a lesson to all Dominicans, all Dominicans. We must always enjoy what we do if we say that's what we want to do. So if we choose to be a teacher, we should enjoy it. If we choose to be a doctor, we should enjoy it, and our patients should be happy. If we choose to be a politician, we should enjoy it. So for that, I'm very, very proud of you, how you handled yourself. For the past 2 days, you on the proposing side, you defended the 3 resolutions as proposed. And on the opposing side, I see that you prosecuted the resolution. Though you may have your own personal opinions on the matters before the House, but yet still you manifested tolerance, you showed flexibility in your deliberation. And that there is fantastic, not just for this House only, but even at your home. You may disagree at your home. You may disagree in the organization and institution you serve. But what you need to do is be able to be flexible, listen to all the different points of views. And as a young person, you have something that is most important, something where, because you are young, it is easier for you to change. So you can always change your point of view, and nothing is wrong in changing your point of view if convinced by a new point of view. Irrespective of what the topic is of the day, my hope is that you'll continue this most sacred mission of leadership, in which you will proactively engage all matters of development in Dominica. I would like to encourage you, the youth here today, and the youth across Dominica, to be the agent of change in Dominica. To me, in many things, we are too conservative. For example, the last proposition, whether or not we should keep the capital project to 3 major areas. Is it not right or is it not wrong? The question is, what is your view? What is the country's view? As a small island state, should we be trying to do everything, everywhere, to please everyone, even if it is financially infeasible to do so? And therefore, it might not be 3 capital projects. It may be 5. It may be 6. The question is, what should it be? And I'm asking you to lead in that discussion so that we, as small island state, can take a different approach to development. I would like to encourage you to be the agent of change. But as agents of change, you need to be agents of innovation, creativity in this country. I would like to encourage you to seize the opportunity available for the youth in Dominica. I said earlier that I was impressed, and I received a number of calls from different people. And therefore, I received a letter from His Excellency the President. Address, it is dated March 24th, 2022. Address to the Honorable Joseph Isaac, Speaker of the House of Assembly. It reads, Dear Honorable Speaker, I'm delighted to take this opportunity at the conclusion of the first meeting of the first session of the National Youth Parliament to offer my personal congratulations to the organizers and participants of this forum, which no doubt involve a considerable amount of preparation and hard work. I listened to the session on Wednesday and was very impressed with the quality of debate and the manner in which the contributions of the various participants were delivered on the issues of concern to them, while observing the standing orders of the House under the confident and professional guidance of the Speaker of the National Youth Parliament, that is Honorable Philip Rule. I firmly believe that a youth parliament is more than role play. It creates a real opportunity for the participants to formulate and present an opinion in a non-aggressive manner and to understand the principles which underpin democracy and civil society, and to acquire and improve upon many skills such as public speaking, debate, presentation, research, and organizational skills. Having first served as a senator at the age of 36, I am sure that this youth parliament was a rewarding, memorable, enjoyable, and educative experience for the organizers and participants alike, which would have left them having a greater understanding and appreciation of the invaluable role of Parliament in the governance of a democratic state. I encourage the organizers and the participants to utilize the skills and knowledge gained effectively and to continue to play a meaningful role in nation building. Please accept my very best wishes. Yours sincerely, His Excellency Charles Savre, the President of the Commonwealth of Dominica. And therefore, I think I would leave the President, give the last word as usual. So I rest my case and I ask that someone move the motion that the House be adjourned to October 2022.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move that the House be adjourned to October 17?
No date.
October 2022.
Seconded, Mr. Speaker.
It has been moved that the House be adjourned until October 2022. Those in favor? Aye. Those against, the House have it. The ayes have it, sorry. The House stand adjourned until October 2022.
Something.